to Srila Prabhupada. Canto 1, Chapter 3, verse 23. Eko navimse vimsatim vrishnishu prapya janmani Rama Krishna iti bhuvo Bhagavan ahrada baram.
In the 19th and 20th incarnations, the Lord advented himself as Lord Balram and Lord Krishna in the family of Vrishni, the Yadu dynasty, and by so doing, he removed the burden of the world.
Sorry, I forgot the invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 24. Tata kalau sampravarte samohaya suratvisam buddho namna jana sutaha kikateshu bhavishyati.
Then, in the beginning of Kali Yuga, the Lord will appear as Lord Buddha, the son of Anjana, in the province of Gaya, just for the purpose of deluding those who are envious of the faithful theists.
Text 25. Athaso yuga sandhyaya dashya prayeshu rajasu janita vishnu yashasho namna kalkir jagatpatihi.
Thereafter, at the conjunction of two yugas, the Lord of the creation will take his birth as the Kalki incarnation and become the son of Vishnu Yasa. At this time, almost all the rulers of the earth will have denigrated into plunderers.
Text 26. Avtarahi asankheya hare satvani de tvijaha yatha vidashtina kulya sarasashu sahasrasa.
O Brahmanas, the incarnation of the Lord are innumerable, like rivulets flowing from the inexhaustible source of water.
Text 27. Rasyo manavo deva manuputra mahajasaha kalaha sarve hare eva saprachapataya smritaha.
All the rishis, Manus, demigods, and descendants of Manu, who are especially powerful, are plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. This also includes the Prajapatis.
Text 28. Ete jamsa kala pushpumsa Krishna tu Bhagavan swayam Indradi vyakulam lokam mridayanti yuge yuge.
All of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. But Lord Shri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. All of them appear on planets wherever there is a disturbance created by deities. The Lord incarnates to protect the theists.
Text 29. Janma guhyam bhagavato ya etat prayato naraha shayam pratar grina praktya dukkha gramad vimuchyate.
Whoever carefully recites the mysterious appearances of the Lord with devotion in the morning and in the evening gets relief from all miseries of life.
Text 30. Etadrupam bhagavato hi arupasya chid atmanaha maya gune virachitam mahadadibir atmani.
The conception of Virat, universal form of the Lord, as appearing in the material world is imaginary. It is to enable the less intelligent and neophytes to adjust to the idea of the Lord's having form. But factually, the Lord has no material form.
Text 31. Yathana bhasi me gaugo renu va parthivo anile evam drishyatvam aropitam abuttibi.
Clouds and dust are carried by the air, but less intelligent persons say that the sky is cloudy and the air is dirty. Similarly, they also implant material bodily conceptions on the spirit itself.
Text 32. Ataparam yad avyaktam avyudha guno brihitam adrashta shuta vastutvam sajivo yat punarbhavaha.
Beyond this gross conception of form is another subtle conception of form, which is without form, formal shape, and is unseen, unheard, and unmanifest. The living being has his form beyond this subtlety. Otherwise, he could not have repeated births.
Yatre me sad asat rupe pratishidde swasamvidha avidyayatmani krite iti tad brahma darshanam.
Whenever a person experiences by self-realization that both the gross and subtle bodies have nothing to do with the pure self, at that time he sees himself as well as the Lord.
Text 34. Yadi aso parat devi maya vaisharadi matihi sampana evati vidur mahimni swe mahiyate.
If the illusory energy subsides and the living entity becomes fully enriched with knowledge by the grace of the Lord, then he becomes at once enlightened with self-realization and thus becomes situated in his own glory.
Text 35. Evam janmani karmani hi akartur ajanasya cha varnayanti sma kavayo veda guhyani riti pateha.
Thus, learned men describe the births and activities of the unborn and inactive, which is undiscoverable even in the Vedic literatures. He is the Lord of the heart.
Text 36. Sava idam vishwam amogalilaha shrajati avati atina sajate asmin bhuteshu chantarahita atmatantra sad vargikam jigrati sad ganesha.
The Lord, whose activities are always spotless, is the master of the six senses and is fully omnipotent with six opulences. He creates the manifested universes, maintains them, and annihilates them without being in the least affected. He is within every living being and is always independent.
Text 37. Nachasya kaschin nipunena dhatu evaiti jantu kumani sa utihi namani rupani manovachobihi santo vato nata charyam ivagnaha.
The foolish with a poor fund of knowledge cannot know the transcendental nature of the forms, names, and activities of the Lord, who is playing like an actor in a drama. Nor can they express such things, neither in their speculations, nor in their words.
Text 38. Save dadatu padambim parasya duranta viryasya yatanga paneha yo mayaya santatayanu vrityam bhajeta tatpada saroja gandham.
Only those who render unreserved, uninterrupted, favorable service unto the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, who carries the wheel of the chariot in his hand, can know the creator of the universe in his full glory, power, and transcendence.
Text 39. Athehatyana bhagavantam itham yadvasudeve khilalokanate kurvanti sarvakmakam atmabhavam nayatra bhuya parivarta ugraha.
Only by making such inquiries in this world can one be successful and perfectly cognizant. For such inquiries invoke transcendental, aesthetic love into the personality of Godhead, who is the proprietor of all the universes and guarantee 100% immunity from the dreadful repetition of birth and death.
Text 40. Idam bhagavatam namam puranam brahma samhitam utam shlokam charitam chakara bhagavan rishi nishreyashya lokasya dayam dhyanam swasti ayanam mahat.
This Srimad Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of God, and it is compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of God. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people, and it is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect.
Text 41. Tad idam grahayam asa sutam atmavatam varam sarva vedeti hasanam saram sharam samudratam.
Sri Vyasadeva delivered it to his son, who is the most respected among the self-realized, after extracting the cream of all Vedic literatures and histories of the universe.
Text 42. Satu samravayam asha maharajam parikshitam prayopavishtam gangayam paritam paramarsibihi.
Sukdev Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, in his turn delivered the Bhagavatam to the great emperor Parikshit, who sat surrounded by sages on the bank of the Ganges, awaiting death without taking food or drink.
Text 43. Krishne swadamopangate dharma jnanadibhi saha kalo nashtam drisham esha purana ko adunoditaha.
This Bhagavata Purana is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Purana.
Text 44. Tatra kirtan yato viprasir bhuri tejasaha aham chadyagamam tatram nivashtad anugrahat so aham va shava yishyami yathadhitam yathamati.
O learned Brahmanas, when Sukdev Goswami recited Bhagavatam there in the presence of Emperor Parikshit, I heard him with rapt attention, and thus, by his mercy, I learned the Bhagavatam from that great and powerful sage. Now I shall try to make you hear the very same thing as I learnt it from him and as I have realized it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Om Tat Sat. Apologies for any mistakes. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much for your nice recitation, Mataji and Prabhu. Thank you very much. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam ततो जयमुदीरयेत् श्रवणं स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्य श्रवण कीर्तन हृदयन्तिस्तो ह्यभद्राणि विधिनोति सुहृत्सताम् नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवति उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Today we are reading verse number 30, chapter 3, canto 1, so SP 1330. Etadarupam bhagavato iyarupasya chit atmanah maya guner virachitam mahadadibhiratmani. Etadrupam bhagavato iyarupasya chidatmanah maya gunir virachitam mahadadhibhir atmani. Etadrupam bhagavato iyarupasya chidatmanah maya gunai virachitam mahadadhibhir atmani. Synonyms: etat, all these, rupam, forms, Bhagavataha, of the Lord, he certainly arupasya, of one who has no material form, chitatmanaha, of the transcendence, maya, material energy, gunehe, by the qualities, virachitam, manufactured, mahat adhibhihi, with the ingredients of matter, atmani is the self. The conception, translation, the conception of the Virat universal form of the Lord as appearing in the material world is imaginary. It is to enable the less intelligent and neophytes to adjust to the idea of the Lord's having form. But factually, Lord has no material form. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Conception of the Lord, known as Vishwarupa or the Virat Rupa, is particularly not mentioned along with the various incarnations of the Lord, because all the incarnations of the Lord mentioned above are transcendental, and there is not a tinge of materialism in their bodies. There is no difference between the body and the self, as there is in the conditioned soul. The Virat Rupa is conceived for those who are just neophyte worshippers. For them, the material Virat Rupa is presented, and it will be explained in the second canto. In the Virat Rupa, the material manifestation of different planets have been conceived as his legs, hands, etc. Actually, all such descriptions are for the neophytes. The neophytes cannot conceive of anything beyond matter. Material conception of the Lord is not counted in the list of his actual forms. As Paramatma or Supersoul, Lord is within each and every material form, even within the atoms, but the outward material form is but an imagination, both for the Lord and for the living being. The present form of the conditioned souls are also not factual. The present form of the conditioned soul are also not factual. Conclusion is that the material conception of the body of the Lord as Virat is imaginary. Both the Lord and the living beings are living spirits and having original spiritual bodies. Om Agyanam Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapatakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvaivacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Etadrupam Bhagavato Iyarupasya Chidatmana Maya Gune Virachitam Mahadadi Viratmani. Conception of Virat, universal form of the Lord, as appearing in the material world is imaginary. It is to enable the less intelligent to adjust to the idea of the Lord having form. Actually, Lord has no material form. This is a wonderful verse and very much resonate with the constant theme of Srila Prabhupada. He would often pick up this subject and to defeat those who do not believe in the form of the Lord, who do not believe in the personality of the Lord, who want to always look at the abstractness of the power in the universe. He would bring out these arguments oftentimes. And I was reading this wonderful talk of Srila Prabhupada from Morning Walk on July the 12th, 1976 in New York. And so he's talking about the structures of New York City itself having the forms, you see, and he's trying to bring this out, this fact that everything has a form. So Rameshwar Prabhu is saying to Prabhupada, all these sculptures are abstract. Prabhupada, in New York City, many of these big buildings have courtyards, and the courtyards they have purchased sculptures. So all the sculptures are abstract. They are against the form. So these sculptures didn't have any form, and they were made abstract because they don't believe in the form. So they're all impersonalists, and they spend hundreds and thousands of dollars to have these gigantic structures. All over New York City, you see them. They have no form. They are simply, and Prabhupada is interrupting and he's saying, that is a form. The structure itself has a form. Rameshwar is saying, but it's abstract. It is to just give the idea. Prabhupada, no, it is not abstract, it is form. Kamal Krishna Maharaj, it is not personal, that's what he means. Prabhupada says, yes, it's a form of their imagination, that's all. Not a standard form, but it is a form. They want to make everything formless with form. That means they cannot avoid form. And it's quite an interesting argument that how Prabhupada is saying that you cannot just avoid the form because form is something that is always going to be there. And that's the argument. I'm just going to open this particular slide which is discussed in this particular verse. So let me just find out that for me. Just a second. Yeah. Just share my screen with you all. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, so now we understand from the creation aspect how this creation has happened or occurred. And we know that there is this Garbhodakshai Vishnu who is lying into this ocean of Karanadakshay Vishnu lying in the Karan ocean of causal ocean. And he's looking at this Prakriti, which is Dravya, and he's impregnating with his vision. He's impregnating with his vision, and by that impregnation, the jivas are also getting impregnated into this particular Pradhan or Prakriti, which is nobody else but Mother Durga. Will talk about it. And so therefore the Kala karma and swabhav is impregnated into this prakriti. And then we do understand that from that, the whole creation must occur. The modes of nature become active, and they then gradually give rise to different types of identities called as ahankar, sattvic, rajasic, tamasic, which then give results to various senses, and it gives results to intelligence, and eventually the material elements come into existence like sound and air, sound, fire, water, earth, etc. And these senses which can coordinate or correlate with these kind of material elements. The sound can be heard in the ether through our ears. Similarly, touch can be felt through the air, with our skin, and form can be seen. The fire has a form which can be seen through our eyes. Taste of water can be tasted by our tongue, and nose can smell the smell of the earth. And this way, the whole creation is being done. Now, we understand that all these elements, they come together, and some kind of mixing is being done by the Supreme Lord to give the resultant prakriti that is manifested here. Now, each of the universe is created like that. Within each universe, then Supreme Lord enters into each of this universe, and then the Prakriti starts. From that, Mahavishnu, then from the navel of Mahavishnu, Lord Brahma appears, etc. We know the entire understanding of how this story of creation is described, or reality of creation is described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, this particular form of the Lord, which is 7 planetary system up and 7 planetary system down, is what is actually described in the purport. Srila Prabhupada has mentioned there that how some people want to see the form of the Lord in the universe itself. And how they see it through looking at the soul of the Lord as Patala Loka, the heel of the Lord as Rasatal Loka, ankles of the Lord as Mahatal, the calves of the Lord as Talatal, the 2 knees are Sutal, and lower thighs are Vital, upper thighs being Atal, and hips being Mahatal. Then the navel becomes Bhuvara, and chest becomes Swarga. Bhuvara, this is earthly planet, navel. And chest becomes Swarga, neck becomes Maharloka, face is Janaloka, forehead is Tapaloka, and top of the head is Satyaloka. Like that, we can see there are these 14 planetary systems. And if you count them all, there are 14 of them. And all of these 14 has a corollary part of the Lord of 4-armed Vishnu form, which is representing that. Now, this form of the Lord, which is being described on the screen as you see here, is imaginary form. That is what is being mentioned. It's an imaginary form. So this is what it says. The conception of the Virat, universal form of the Lord, as appearing in the material world, is imaginary. Now, why is this imaginary form being described in Srimad Bhagavatam though? It is not put in line with all other incarnations where there is a real form of the Lord, but there is a conception given to those who do not want to understand the form, exactly like those people in the New York City who are trying to get away from the form, but they're creating another sort of form to give some sort of understanding of existence. How would they? That's an abstract form, it's not a personal form. Okay, that's fine. Similarly, they are thinking that Lord has a material form which can be this. It can be described like this in the 7 planetary system, top and the bottom. But actually, Lord has no material form. It is just for those people who cannot agree with the form of the personality of Godhead. They would like to see the Lord in this way of division of the universes, and from there they can get some conception or understanding of the Supreme Lord. A Supreme Lord is obviously can be realized in 3 forms: Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagwan iti shabdyate. Now, in these three ways, Lord can be experienced or can be realized. So the Paramateti and Bhagavati, Bhagwan form of the Lord, is something which is real. Paramatma is the real form as well, because in the heart, one can see the four-armed Vishnu form of the Lord. That is again another form of the Lord, which is seated in the heart. Many people don't believe that, and they feel that there is only soul in the body, and when that soul comes out of the control of the modes of nature, will become God. And that is, which is what is described as Mayavadi philosophy, wherein Aham Brahma Asmi means I will become God myself. So Prabhupada is saying that even the living entity, what we see, the form is not the correct form. That form is also the form of the soul is Satyachit Anand. The material composition of the soul's elements is Satyachit Anand, exactly same as the Supreme Lord Satyachit Anand. But Supreme Lord is a very big form, whereas the living entity is 1/10,000 part of the tip of the hair. That's the form of living entity. So in this way, we can see how Srila Prabhupada is giving this argument of how you cannot just avoid the form. Now, Krishna himself says here in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 9 and 4th verse, he's saying, Maya tatamidam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina matasthani sarva bhutani nachaham teshu avastitaha. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are me, in me, but I am not in them, which means the extension of this universe is also the Lord. And Prabhupada has explained that in each and every atom, Lord is being situated, but that does not mean that the universe itself is the form of the Lord. Although it is the potency of the Lord through which the universe is running, but that doesn't mean that universe is Lord. Lord exists in his own original form. So he's saying all beings are in me, but I am not in them. So I am existing separately. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. Just like Prabhupada is giving an example of sky. The sky is quite huge. Sky is there, but sky is also having a form, a round form, which we can see, and that sky can contain anything and everything. Similarly, Lord is all pervading and he can contain everything, but that doesn't mean that the identity of the Lord is merged into the identity of that what he is containing. So therefore, the identity of the Lord is being separated from the identity of everything else. Therefore, we can easily and logically agree the material form is not the form of the Lord. It is just a manifestation of the Lord. We understand from Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Paramaha Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Nadiraja Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. There is a word used here, Vigraha. Vigraha, it says form. Ishwar Paramaha Krishna, Sat, Chit and Anand. That form is made of these three elements of eternity, truth, and bliss. Knowledge, bliss, and eternity, which is nothing but eternal existence, like truth. So Ishwar Paramaha Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. Sarva Karan Karanam. He is the cause of all causes. Like in the case of material creation, he is the cause of all causes. Prabhupada gave a very, very beautiful analogy of the movement. He's saying that how does a train move? There are multiple bogies of the train. It's just when the engine moves, when the engine moves, you can see click, 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 like that Srila Prabhupada is speaking in his lecture. Click, 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 click. All the bogies are moving along with that. So it's just by one motion, the whole thing is coming into motion. All of things are coming alive. Similarly, in material creation, just by the motion, by the vision of the Lord, everything is getting into motion and everything is getting activated. And that is why he's called the cause of all causes. He's behind everything. which means he is a person who is putting this motion, who is putting this action behind the entire creation, which is the Lord himself. When the Lord is doing it, that means he is a person. He is a person behind the cause of all causes. And this verse fully proves that particular understanding. Okay, there's some sound coming. I'm going to mute one of the, okay, thank you. So we can see beautiful way that Srila Prabhupada builds up the arguments of how Krishna has a form, or Supreme Personality of God has a form. And for example, here in this, it is mentioned, Shishti Sthiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Reka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vivarti Durga Ikshan Rupam Api Yasya Chachestatatsa Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So there's a word used here, Ikshanurupam. Ikshanurupam api yasya chachestatatsa. Ikshanurupam means by the will. So Mother Durga is there by the will, in accordance with, this mentions here, Anurupam, in accordance with. The external potency Maya, who is the nature of the shadow of the Chit potency, is worshipped by all people as Durga, creating, preserving, and destroying agency of this mundane world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in accordance with whose will Durga conducts herself. You see, there is a personality everywhere. This abstract that we see in the material world is happening because of a personality, and that personality's name is Mother Durga. Now, this Durga is working under the direction of Krishna. Maya Dakshena Prakriti Surate Sacharacharam. Krishna says very clearly in Bhagavad Gita. Now, when we see this, Prabhupada also gives a beautiful example that how Krishna claims in Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 4, first verse, he's claiming, Shri Bhagavan uvacha imam vivsvasate yogam proktvan aham abhyam visvatsana manave praha manur ikshava kubravit. He's saying that it is this knowledge of Gita, Sanatan Dharma, the knowledge of the soul, is not something new. He's saying to Arjun, he's saying that I personally went to the sun planet and I have given this knowledge to the sun planet's personality. His name is Ikshavaku, the personality of Godhead, Vivaswan. The personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to sun god Vivaswan, and Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind. Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshavaku. So Lord Krishna first went to the sun planet. Now, how can one live in sun planet? Sun planet is all fire. Prabhupada is a very good example. He says, we think from our own point of view and projection that, okay, our bodies burn into fire. Therefore, all the bodies must burn into fire. But then he says, what about those amphibians or animals who are living in the water, like fishes? Their bodies are mostly watery bodies, and they have some skin and form and some bones, but mostly they have the watery bodies. Now, similarly, there are bodies which are fiery bodies. The bodies are made of fire. So in those planets where we think that there's no life that may exist, there are beautiful form and bodies. And in sun planet, there are fiery bodies. And Lord Krishna says himself that I personally went and I have given this knowledge of Krishna consciousness to Vivaswan, who is the personality of the deity of that particular planet. Similarly, Mother Durga is the deity of the material energy. And this Mother Durga is conducting herself under the control of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, personality of Godhead must have the form. The child, if the child says that, oh, my father has no form, but then the child must be asked that, okay, your father has no form, but how come you have the form? And you have the form, and your father is the most powerful personality, and he is all pervading, and he does not have any form. How is that possible? Father must have the form because you have the form, like coat and shirt have the form, but that form is the form of that body on which that coat or shirt has to go. Similarly, the soul has a form. That soul's form is taken, the body that we see is sitting on the form of the soul. Similarly, the Lord has the form, and that an entire manifestation is coming from his own expansion. And that is the explanation of this Ikshan Rupam Apiyasya Chateshtatasa. Krishna is giving this will, by his will, this Mother Durga is operating and conducting this entire universe. So, yeah, so these are some of the arguments that are built around and justifying this particular verse, which is saying conception of Virat universal form of the Lord as appearing in the material world is imaginary. So the world itself is not imaginary. World exists, but the conception is imaginary. Why is it created? To enable less intelligence to adjust the idea of the Lord's having form. But devotees don't think like that. Devotees, they know that Lord has the form, and therefore they have full faith in the Vigraha. These Vigraha, they are not some statues standing in the temple for the purpose of just getting the feel of some sort of form. And when I meditate upon this form, at that time when I'll have complete control of myself, and I'll be able to focus myself internally into my own self, I won't need this form, and I can overcome this form, walk over the form, and become God myself. Such is the conception of some foolish Mayavadi people. But devotees, they know that Lord has the form, and we know from the past signs of the Lord that how beautifully Lord has also proven this to his devotees, that his form as eternal Satchidanand Anand, as well as the form of the deities, are equal and same. In the story of Sakshi Gopal, pastime of Sakshi Gopal, we understand that how Lord agreed to walk from Vrindavan all the way up to Orissa to give witness to this young Brahmin who was promised by the elderly Brahmin that I want to give you my daughter in marriage because you have served me so well, and I feel so obliged and grateful that I want to respect that relationship. I want to reciprocate. Therefore, I'm going to give my daughter to you. And this young Brahmin said, no, sir, you are so wealthy, opulent, you're aristocratic, I'm poorly. How is this possible? Your family members won't agree. This may not be accepted in the society. And no. Elderly Brahmin said, I would do that because this is what I want to do and nobody can come in the way. And they said, okay, fine. If that is the case, let's go to the deity and you can say your promise to him and I'll accept it. And then they go to Sakshi Gopalji's deities, and he said, my lord, you are witnessing this promise that this is what is being agreed here. And then after the agreement, the elderly Brahmin leaves to his village. When he comes to South India, to his village, his family condemns him for this kind of promise. And his rude son, who was very proud, he forcefully asked his father that you don't lie, but you can pretend that I can't remember if that young Brahmin ever turns up. Well, he won't turn up anyway. But in due course of time, the young Brahmin did turn up because he didn't want this elderly Brahmin to break the promise of truthfulness being Brahminical culture, for which he will get sinful reaction. So to just maintain the Brahminical culture of the elderly Brahmin, the young Brahmin said to the elderly Brahmin, sir, you promised something, and will you not fulfill? And as agreed with his son, elderly Brahmin says, no, I can't remember anything. And then the son comes with full arrogance and says, you are wanting to get all the wealth of my father, and he accused him that you stole the wealth, run away from this house. You are not getting to get my daughter in wedding. You are a dreamer. So this young Brahmin comes out to the village and talks to the elderly people, and then it was agreed that the son of it was agreed that if Gopalji comes here and gives witness that this elderly Brahmin has promised to give the daughter, the son of elderly Brahmin says that then I will give my daughter to you, give my sister to you, no problem. And in his mind he was thinking, which deity will come here? This is an imagination. He was all the Brahminical, but he wasn't the believer of the Lord. He wasn't the devotee, the kind of devotee that Brahmin was from Vrindavan. So when he comes back, the young Brahmin comes back to Vrindavan. He pleaded, Lord. Lord says to him, have you ever seen any deity walking that you expect me to walk? And then the young Brahmin says, my dear Lord, the deities, if you can talk, why can't you walk? Krishna says, okay, I'll walk behind you. Please don't turn the back and don't see. You just cook 1 kg of rice every day for me. And throughout the course of my path, don't look back. And in the night you can rest, and then you will not hear my ankle bells. Once you will keep hearing my ankle bells, which will tell you that I am behind you. That way, the Lord deity himself walked all the way from Vrindavan to Odisha, south of India, huge distance. And finally, towards the end, he was cooking bhoga and everything every now and then. And when towards the end, he didn't hear any ankle bells. He could not manage his curiosity, and he looked back, and then he found that the deities stopped there, standing. So he understood that the place has arrived. The place has arrived where they should be to witness. And then he runs towards the villagers and tells them, look, Gopalji has come to witness the promise that elderly Brahmin has given. And then they all comes to Gopalji, and then the Brahmin confessed that yes, that was the case. And then he was respectfully wedded to the daughter of the elderly Brahmin. Now you can go and see this beautiful deity of Sakshi Gopal as you go from Bhubaneswar to Jagannath Puri on your way to Jagannath Puri temple. You can see this beautiful black deities, single black tall deities of Sakshi Gopal standing, and they are from Vrindavan originally. So devotees of the Lord, they believe in the form of the Lord and the Vigraha of the Lord. They reciprocate with the devotion of the devotees. They accept prasad, they accept devotion. And that is why Srila Prabhupada has mentioned that each of the temple of ISKCON, where deities are established, is nothing but the embassy of the spiritual world. In the material world, these are the embassies of the spiritual world, because in the embassy, you can expect everything to be exactly how it is in that country. The rules, the regulations, everything applies. Similarly, Prabhupada says that all these beautiful temples with nice, beautiful vigraha, deities of the Lord are the embassies. Therefore, Lord has a form which is real. And this way, we can see how, even though it is material form for some, it is a spiritual form for devotees. So that is a difference of understanding between what was being the imaginary form of the Lord, which was described, but here is the real form of the Lord, which is also made of so-called material elements, but Lord is there because he's invited by the pure devotees, and he kind of agrees to come into the deity form and reciprocate with the devotees. I'll conclude my talk here. If there are any questions, we can discuss that, or comments, we can take that on now. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
कुछ ऐसा हो सकता है और एक बिका हुआ आदमी दूसरे बिका हुआ आदमी को बहुत जल्दी पहचान इसलिए यहाँ.
Okay. If there is no question or comment, then we can conclude our session here. I'm checking the chat box.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. It was all very much clearly understood. So thank you so much for that. Prabhuji, I just have a quick question. I was looking at the blue chart where you were explaining all the lokas, and I'm just a bit curious. Where is the earth loka? And then what is
Bhuvar.
earth called in that loka?
Bhuvar Loka. I'll show you the screen again.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
So in this it says Bhuvar Loka here.
Bhuva loka, right? Okay. Okay. So we are somewhere
That's
in the
Bhumi, Mother Earth here.
understood, Prabhuji. That's clear. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
So I'm so sorry. Bhu is the earth planet. Bhu, then above that is the Bhuvar, and then Swarga. So exactly earth is this, Bhu.
Okay. Understood, Prabhuji. Thank you, Hare
Bhuvar,
Krishna.
you must have heard this, na? Bhu, Bhuvar.
Yes,
Sloka,
Prabhuji.
it comes like that.
Okay.
It's middle planetary system. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for such a wonderful, enlightening class. Prabhuji, I was just thinking that how fortunate we are that the Lord appears in the Archvikra, and we take darshan so much for granted. We go to the temple, we look at Brother Gokulanandan, we bow down, we come out. And suddenly you make me realize how much this darshan is, how precious is this darshan, that the Lord has appeared in Archvikra and he's in front of us and he's allowing us to take darshan. I mean, that is so much mercy that he's showering on us. Absolutely. Made us realize the preciousness of the darshan that we take at Radha Gokulananda's darshan. So thank you, Prabhuji, for that.
Yeah, you must cook for the deities, dress them up nicely, and do all the regulations, discipline our senses, so our senses can be controlled. For Grihastha, Srila Prabhupada has mentioned deity worship. Apart from Vaishnava Seva, deity worship would control and regulate our senses. And from eyes, we can see the beautiful form, and then senses can be engaged. So that way we can control our senses, which are like venomous serpent running towards the object of their sense enjoyment. So thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Okay, so I'll take leave now because there are no more comments or questions. Thank you all for coming here and listening to Srimad Bhagavatam. I pay my obeisances to all of you. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha patitanam pavnebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo namo namah.
Oh, Namaha. Thank you, Prabhuji, for wonderful class.
Thank you. Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.